very good morning to you and welcome to the Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. My name is Rene Paulson. How are you doing this morning? It's Monday the 12th of May 2025, and in fact it is International Nurses Day. So as we all know, nurses are the backbone of the health sector, and today we thank them for their selfless service. Just making sure that the health sector is moving, assisting the doctors, the surgeons and whatnot, and they do that amazingly. So to all the nurses around the world, we want to say thank you so much for all that you do and helping us, have this health and wellness thing on check. Anyways, on today's breakfast show, we'll be going into the health sector as well, because the first hot topic we'll be discussing this morning is NARD rejects NUC's doctor title for non-medical health degree. Much later in the show, we'll be discussing the fact that, people are starving in silence. Northern Nigeria's child malnutrition crisis spirals. We'll also be taking the global stories that has made it to the front pages of our national dailies. But first, we'll look at our top trending stories right now. And our first top trending story this morning says, Lagos warns landlords, don't collect over 1 year's rent. The Lagos state government has urged residents to report landlords or agents demanding more than 1 year's rent as part of its crackdown on unfair housing practices. Special advisor on housing, Barakat Bakare, made this call during a TV interview, stressing the administration's commitment to regulating the real estate market for better accessibility. Bakare revealed that the state is reviewing its tenancy law to fix loopholes around caution fees and excessive rent demands. She encouraged Lagosians to report violations either in person at the Lasera office in Alausa or through the agency's website, noting that anything beyond a year's rent is illegal. She added that discussions with landlords and property stakeholders are ongoing to promote fair pricing. Bakare also urged tenants to verify the registration of agents or developers with Lasera before making transactions, assuring that the government's goal is to ease housing stress for residents. And I think with this, honestly, it's not even just about 1 year's rent. There's a whole lot that we need to speak about when it comes to the real estate market in Nigeria. And one thing that I would definitely love to speak about is the unfair pricing. I know they said, they're trying to look for look for ways to plug every loophole, right? But one thing that is for sure is unfair pricing. Imagine a one-bedroom apartment and you're being asked to pay millions of naira just for it. And you wonder, the value of this, I can't really see it. Why am I paying so much? And if you think about the standard of living in Nigeria, if you think about what people are earning, they don't even earn enough to be able to pay these rents. And that's the reason why you see people taken into criminality just to be able to afford rent, just to be able to afford the lifestyle. And that is not to promote that. That is not to say it's okay, to be a criminal or to go into fraudulent activities just because you want to live that lifestyle. But that is what they're pushing people into doing. Why can't we have affordable housing in Nigeria? That is the conversation we should be having right now. Affordable housing, I should be able to own a home, mortgage system. Those are the things that we need to look at. So I understand that you're saying 1 year's rent, that's what it should be, but there is a bigger fish to fry here. And that bigger fish, to be honest, is ensuring that people they don't have to break the bank. I shouldn't use my entire salary to be paying a landlord. I understand that he has probably built his house a long time ago and he needs to reap the dividends. But one thing that they always say is, the price of materials have gone up, but it did not go up today. You probably built your house 10, 20 years ago, but you still want to ensure that people are getting all of their salaries and paying it to you. Why is that? So I think the government definitely need to have stringent measures when it comes to the real estate in Nigeria as a whole, not even just Lagos State right now, ensuring that people do not have to break the bank, ensuring that people can have affordable housing, ensuring that people can even have more money to do other things that they need to do, right? And let's even go to the sale. Most times you look at a house in Nigeria, and you're hearing, maybe we're on the island in Lagos now, you're hearing billions of naira. Now, that same amount, if you take it somewhere else, maybe to the United States or Canada or wherever, you will get something even better, something of much more value. And so I wonder, what are we really selling in Nigeria when we say the real estate is so expensive? Most times, if you're abroad, the reason why a house would be so expensive is maybe one is in the city center, is close to certain amenities. You know, there's certain services that you just get with that easy accessibility. But in Nigeria, it seems people just buy the name. Oh, I'm living next to this person, I'm living next to that person. You're not even thinking, is there a park around? You know, what does the estate give me? Honestly, I think we need to even have a conversation on this, and maybe one of these days we'll bring people to come and speak about the real estate sector in Nigeria, because there's a whole lot that's going on there that we can never understand, and we need to know what's happening and what the government is trying to do to mitigate all of this. But one thing remains the same: it is illegal to ask for more than a year's rent in Lagos. So if you're a landlord or you're thinking, or an agent, and you're thinking of doing that, please, it is illegal. If someone is asking you for that, make sure that you report the person. And yeah, all right, another top trending story this morning says Air Peace rescues 78 trafficked Nigerian women from Côte d'Ivoire. Air Peace has carried out a humanitarian mission to repatriate 78 Nigerian women trafficked to Côte d'Ivoire under false promises of employment. The airline deployed a Boeing 737 to bring the victims back home, completely free of charge, as part of its ongoing commitment to national service and human dignity. Chairman Alan Onyema emphasized the need to restore the women's dignity, pledging free medical care for all returnees at Duchess Hospital. He credited the emotional success of the mission to the joy and relief expressed by the rescued women during the flight, and acknowledged the role of activist Very Dark Man in raising awareness. At the Lagos reception, NAPTIP Director General Binta Bello praised the collaborative effort, noting that arrests have been made and justice will be pursued. The Nigerian embassy and local leaders in Côte d'Ivoire were also instrumental in coordinating the rescue, marking a proud moment of unity and compassion for the nation. Thank you so much, Air Peace, for doing this, and everybody who has been on board with this, because you hear this a whole lot, whereby people are going to other countries, maybe looking for employment or whatnot, and then when you get there, they use you for other things. Sometimes they even make you go into prostitution, and that's something that has just really happened lately. In fact, not even lately, a few years now it's been happening. But honestly, one thing I would say is we need to fix our country, because if our country is flourishing, I don't think anybody will want to leave, going to look for greener pastures somewhere else. Imagine Côte d'Ivoire, and that's not to say it's not a great country. I'm sure it's a great country, but imagine having to go to Côte d'Ivoire, saying you want a job, and then they're putting you under certain conditions. So it's quite sad and it's quite unfortunate, but we're thankful that this moment has come whereby the ladies have been rescued. But imagine the other women that are there and you don't even know about. This is 78. That's a huge number. Imagine 78 women in another country that they know nothing about, just because they wanted a job. There's so many other women that are going through this, even men. I mean, there are men who go to other countries because they're looking for a job, and then when they get there, they're stuck. Sometimes they take out their passports, so they cannot move. They are really tied to whoever the employer is in this case. But like I said, if we can fix our country, just ensure that everything is working, nobody will want to leave. And that's what we need to be looking at right now. But thank you to Air Peace, thank you to all the collaborators on this to ensure that these women arrive Nigeria safely, and even to the healthcare facility that's looking to give them free medical care. So thank you to all of you. All right, another top trending story. This one is a little bit political, and it says Obi Akpabio clash over comment on Nigeria's democracy and poverty. Senate President Godswill Akpabio has slammed Peter Obi for saying Nigeria is not a true democracy and that the labor of our heroes past is in vain. Speaking at a Senate valedictory session, Akpabio questioned Obi's leadership and credentials, urging him to first resolve the crisis within the Labour Party before criticizing national issues like Boko Haram. He also warned political figures against making statements that could destabilize the country. Obi, who made a controversial remarks at Pa Edwin Clark's memorial lecture and during a recent talk at Johns Hopkins University, maintained that his comments were factual and not aimed at demarketing Nigeria. He cited World Bank and UNICEF reports highlighting widespread poverty and child malnutrition, insisting that telling the truth is necessary for national progress. Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu also rebuked Obi, accusing him of painting Nigeria in a bad light abroad. Obi fired back, saying true patriotism lies in acknowledging the country's problems and working towards solutions, not covering them up. Two sides to the coin, right? And definitely two sides to this story. I know that, making certain statements can carry a lot of weight, and you have to be careful with what you say, because you do not want to incite people to make them go into the streets and start demonstrating and whatnot, even though we know that everybody feels the brunt of it all, especially if we look at what's happening with our economy, what's happening in Nigeria as a whole, right? But sometimes we need to say the truth. Call a spade a spade. If things are not working, don't go out there acting like things are working or acting like everything is all glorious. It's important that you acknowledge where you are, be truthful to yourself, and say, we need to get the work done. That is how you start. And now, Peter Obi obviously is speaking abroad, saying, all the things that are heroes, you know what the national anthem says, because the old national anthem here, what it says, the labor of our heroes past shall not be in vain, and that's what it was quoting. That right now, if you look at what has happened, it's obviously in vain at the moment. But like I said, it's important that we know what we're saying and we ensure that it doesn't incite people. Is it the truth? Yes, it is. Having to demarket Nigeria, I don't even think there's anything like that, because if you look at it, everybody knows what's happening. The world is a global village, like they say, so everybody knows what's happening in Nigeria. People know that, there's the floating of the naira. People know that fuel subsidy has been gone. People know that the electricity sector is not the best. People know that the economy is not how it used to be. So it is not hidden knowledge, right? That nobody knows what's going on. And when you go up there, you're saying, oh, you're demarketing Nigeria. They all know these things. Like I said, it's important that we face the truth. What can we do? How can we make things better? That should be the conversation, not saying, oh, you're painting Nigeria in a bad light. Why did Nigeria get into the bad light in the first place? And how can you come out of that bad light into a good light, whereby everybody is looking at your country, wanting to come into your country, wanting to invest in your country, knowing that Nigeria is one of the best economies in the world? That's what we should be speaking about. So I don't think Akpabio needs to be telling Peter Obi, and to be honest, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. So if Peter Obi says the labor of our heroes past are now in vain, he probably feels that way. You cannot tell a man, what his own perspective should be, and maybe that's what his reality is. So he definitely needs to speak. But as the government in general, you need to work together. For me, I always believe that even with the opposition party, if there's something you can do better, why not work together to ensure that Nigeria starts to become better? Us having to, speak and have the whole blame game, it never really works. If we want to do this thing, we have to put all hands on deck, ensuring that Nigeria can become a better country, not just for us right now, but for our kids, the generations that are to come. They say the future is yet to come. So those future leaders, those future citizens, those future Nigerians, what are we leaving for them? That's what we need to be thinking about, and that should be our thought process when we make certain decisions. So even though we're having all of these reforms, we need to know how is it going to benefit the people and the other people to come. So hopefully they start to work together instead of all this back and forth that's going on. All right, our final top trending story this morning says, Sarah demands CBN disclose direct LGA fund disbursement after Supreme Court ruling. The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has urged the Central Bank of Nigeria to immediately confirm whether it has begun direct disbursement of allocations to Nigeria's 774 local government areas in compliance with the recent Supreme Court's judgment nullifying state governors' control over LGA funds. In a letter dated on May 10, 2025, SERAP also demanded a public breakdown of any disbursement made particularly to local government areas in Rivers State. Referencing the landmark ruling, which declared that state government and the FCT minister have no legal authority over LGA funds from the federation accounts, SERAP insisted that LGAs are entitled to receive their allocations directly. The group warned that continued interference by governors undermines local governance and violates the constitution. SERAP cited a past statement by former President Buhari revealing how governors allegedly diverted LGA funds under false pretenses. SERAP further warned that if the CBN fails to respond within 7 days, legal action will be taken to compel compliance. The group emphasized that the Freedom of Information Act applies to the CBN and that Nigerians have a right to know how public funds are managed, especially in the lead up to the 2027 general elections. Well done, Sarah. These are the things that we ask for, because accountability is everything. Transparency is everything, especially if you're in governance. And one thing that has been already put out there is the fact that local governments should be able to have their own financial autonomy, and that's the reason why the Supreme Court ruled to that. You know, local governments have your own money, have your own financial autonomy, so that you can be able to develop the grassroots. And grassroots development is everything, because everybody belongs to a local government, everybody belongs to a constituency, everybody belongs to a ward. So if we do not start from there, talking about the grassroots development now, then nothing really happens. We never really move forward. We never really develop our nation. And that financial autonomy is what is necessary to ensure the development of every local government area. In the past, we've seen governors try to take that financial autonomy from them because they want to just maybe use the money however they want, number one. Number two, they rather put their own stooges as the local government chairman so they can tell them what to do. Basically, still call the affairs or still govern not just the state, but come into the day-to-day activities, the nitty-gritty into the local government as well, still having oversight functions, and not just oversight functions, but the money doesn't belong to the local government. The state government still meddle into the affairs of the local government, and like we all know, there are 3 tiers of government. You have the federal government, you have the state government, and you have the local government. Now, in a way, what we've been operating is just federal and state government, and the local government has been a bit redundant. But with the financial autonomy, obviously that would help them ensure that there's the development of whatever local government it is. And so with the Supreme Court's ruling, we haven't really heard much. In fact, there's still some states that are dilly-dallying with all of this, and it's important that we see what's happening. And I think that's the reason why SERAP has come up with this with this letter saying we want to know what's going on. CBN, show us that, of course, you've been paying the money directly to the local government and not just the state government. And that way, we can see what's going on, accountability and transparency, like I started with. And that is what we need in governance. We don't want a situation whereby some people are taking the money, siphoning the money, embezzling the money. What we're looking at, or what we want, is transparency on all fronts. So if the local government are having this money, we even want to see what they do with it. Not just that we know that this money comes into your account. How do you allocate this money? What do you use with this money? And honestly, like I said, transparency and accountability, that would really help us and take us far as a nation. So hopefully the CBN, does something about it by obviously showing us what the accounts are saying, and we don't have to go to court, or SERAP in this case doesn't have to go to court to compel them to do that. All right, that's it for our top trending stories. We'll go on a short break right now. When we return, we'll be reviewing the papers, so please stay with us.